Go for it.
Aloha snack bar, everyone. It's the one, the only majestic ape, Senor Silverback himself, the gorilla, coming to you on another edition of Mid Mornings with V and CJ. We have a lot of things to cover, so before we even get into it, we ask you that you go on to roguemoney.net. There's some great articles that have been posted by Ken, by James the Russian Analyst, by Wolf, by Bankster, and by yours truly. Just put up American Maidan Part 2. Georgi and Gordita. Go check that out. I spilled the bananas on what the hell is really going on with Soros. I've been mentioning it for a while that I'm going to blow the lid off this whole entire thing, show you who the hell is really helping Soros, who's the man who is behind the Georgi, who is the bend-over buddy who is working with him. I explained the whole thing on who the notorious Gordita is, who's helping Georgi Schwartz, a.k.a. George Soros. So check out that article to cover. So check out also our Twitter. Follow us. Join us at The Rogue Money. Check out the Rogue Money Facebook page where we're live streaming there. And guys, we are going through some updates with our site. Our site will be up and new very, very soon. So sit tight. Get ready for Rogue Money version 4.0. With that being said, CJ, what's crack-a-lackin'?
Hey, good morning, V. How you doing today?
I'm doing good, man. I mean, I'm fired up. I mean, we had a late morning start. I mean, London Paul had some family emergency, so he couldn't join us today. So we decided to move the show till 10 o'clock today to do the morning show. We pray for Paul, and we pray that everything's okay with him and his family, a speedy recovery for whatever's going on, and Godspeed, man.
Absolutely, and we're going to try to reschedule with him. I know our listeners love that show.
Yeah.
I enjoy listening to it.
So I love that show. Jeez.
Yeah. So we will definitely try to get that rescheduled for this week.
Yeah, 1,000%, man. We got to definitely have our, weekly London Paul fireside chats, getting all the intel information that only Paul could bring, man. That's he's the source of sources, my friend.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. But there's a lot going on, V, in terms of, it's amazing time to be alive in terms of witness, what could be the first in our lifetimes big move against the shadow government / deep state and everything that's occurring in DC right now, V.
Absolutely, man. I mean, for those that haven't been paying attention, you're trying to find out what the deep state is. Is the deep state some sort of conspiracy theory? No. It's not a conspiracy theory. The deep state's a friggin' reality. You don't know your history. You don't know how globally, global, and how things are played on the global chessboard into the deep state. They're all over. Their fingerprints are all over so many things. And recently, CJ, it seemed as the notorious for the State Department was purged. Can you explain, sir?
Yeah. So in recent events, in terms of the recent leaks, V, and the things that have occurred, Trump has been trying to figure out where these leaks are coming from, what's happening. And this past Friday night, Tillerson basically went on a purge of this elite group in the State Department, and they're referred to as the 7th Floor Group. Mm-hmm. Now this 7th Floor Group has been exposing, and they have been sharing information, not only in terms of the administration, but also what they do globally, influencing elections. Now, how we can validate that this 7th floor exists in terms of the shadow government, the deep state, is there have been FBI released interviews and documents that actually names this particular group, in particular their involvement with helping protect Hillary in her time at the State Department in regards to the email server. Yeah. Also, this group was also exposed in some of the WikiLeaks in terms of the emails that talked about this, elite group. Now, just to understand, this 7th Floor Group was based upon lifetime members that have been in this secret group and based upon different administration. These people have been there not only through Obama, through Bush, and even dating back to Bill Clinton's administration. So the White House just came in, and Tillerson went in on a Friday night and said, your services are no longer needed, and you can pack your things up and get out of DC. So this was a big move against the deep state, against the shadow government, for their involvement of what they have been doing to work with organizations just like what you had said, V, earlier, the Soros type organizations, and try to undermine the Arab Springs, the potential of that coming to the United States as well.
1000%, man. I mean, this is what it's all about. I mean, the seventh floor is notorious for covering for Hillary Clinton. They're notorious for masterminding, if you can call it, if you can even call it masterminding, the Libyan debacle. They're notorious for putting out the the nonsense of the operations that are in Syria, and they are integral. These are the individuals that worked very closely in the creation of ISIS. Okay, that is who you find in the seventh floor. Individuals that were instrumental in the creation of chaos, in the creation of discord and disorder throughout the world, and the creation of ISIS, aka USIS, which are a bunch of Al Qaeda retreads. That's basically who the seventh floor is. So these are definitely individuals who are not American, who are not, patriots, who don't care about what we do. With their ultimate thing is to collect a paycheck and garner power and become lackeys to those who are the power brokers. Friend, that day is over. So this whole thing, man. I mean, you mentioned something about coming. What the heck is that about, man?
Well, just in terms, if you see, what occurred in regards to the Women's March in D.C., and then this particular past weekend, V, there was also a big march there where Chelsea Clinton decided to raise her head to attend this "I Am Muslim Too" event. So these events, yeah, so they
You kidding me, dude?
no, so they held these big rallies in a lot of cities. In particular, this one was covering New York, where in Times Square, where Chelsea went to it. But it was a big event where that if you can't understand the undermines of these organizations that are putting together these disruptions, if you will, to the administration, this isn't organic things that are happening. These are being well orchestrated, organized events. I mean, I think getting Chelsea Clinton to this event just exposes the level of it, V.
Webster Hubble's daughter, aka Chelsea Clinton, needs to know her role and shut her hole, because she needs to just shut up and go away. Because my thing is this, man. The "I Am Muslim Too" rally. Is that a joke, dude? I mean, I'm looking at pictures of this. You got the same ridiculous hijab wearing Pop Tart with the American flag over her head. That sign, that symbol that's become so unanimous with the feminists. What is it with you retarded leftists? What is it with you and your fascination for radical Islam? What is your fascination? Let me tell you this. Countries where you have peaceful Muslims amongst the population are typically countries that keep them under boot. Okay? Case in point, there are certain countries in Southeast Asia that have a Muslim minority. Muslim minority over there don't do much of anything. They're good. They have no problems. There's really no issues. Maybe historically they might have had one or two issues, and that ended very, very badly for them. So they don't stick their necks out. They're not calling for jihad over there. You know why? Because they will have their asses handed to them on a silver platter. They will be having their villages burned down. They will have the crap kicked out of them. So they are just chill. Once you start catering to a group like that, and the more they grow to the point where they're the majority, they will steal your rights. They will subvert the rule of law and bring in their rule of law. And granted, Sharia law is something that is completely open interpretation, because there's, Sharia law in Indonesia is different from Sharia law in Afghanistan, which is different from Sharia law in Saudi Arabia, which is different from Sharia law in Pakistan. All these, everybody's got their own flavor of Sharia law. But at the end of the day, there are certain tenets that is agreed upon in all Sharia variations. And those tenets are completely incompatible with Western democracies. It is completely incompatible with the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, okay? No. I am Muslim too. You can go shove it. I'm American. I'm American too. And they're hashtagging, bro. No ban, no walls, no raids. How about this? I hashtag wall, ban, and raids. Bring it.
Yeah, so this event was organized in part with, Russell Simmons, probably
Oh,
the
F
people know
him,
from the him
piece of crap.
hip hop, and then Rolling Stone. This was event basically against the travel ban. But you're exactly right, V. What people do not have to understand is that the MSM is not sharing the events of what's happening in Europe right now. Paris was basically under siege, a week ago with these riots that were occurring with these Muslims. If you don't
Oh
see
my
the amount of
god.
rapes that are occurring in Germany, in different parts of Europe with this infiltration, and it's not even really fair to even call them, refugees, because these are people that are leaving a war-torn area that Obama and Hillary Clinton created.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, just look at the quotes of these morons. Okay? Look at the quotes what these morons are saying. We're here today to show Middle America our beautiful signs. And through our beautiful actions and intentions, they've been misled, says Russell Simmons, the piece of crap. Man, go hang yourself. We are here to unified because of Donald Trump. We want to thank him for bringing us together. We've been fighting Islamophobia for years, but there's a shift towards more hate crimes and more hate. What hate crimes? Name one hate crime. They can't, CJ.
No, they can't. And if it is any particular crime that was committed, more than likely it was just completely set up to undermine the efforts, just for an example, just to show someone of something that really didn't happen. Again, the fake news that's occurring. You saw where this past week also that the AP released an article that basically stated that Trump was going to use the actual military reserves, like 100,000 military reserves were going to be called to go ahead and rally and start to go into these cities and arrest illegal Mexicans, which was completely untrue. And I don't know whether they actually redacted the story or not.
Fake news again.
It's
Fake
fake
news again.
news. Fake news. And Trump was very upset about it. Okay, how was that released? He did tweet out that no, we're not considering sending out the reserves to do this, but again, the MSS just continues to hype this divide
Yep.
and conquer up, and why we talked about a potential of an Arab Spring like event coming to the United States. If you look at the amount of made-believe civil unrest that's occurring, it's
Oh
not, or
God.
it's not organic. It's based upon these organizations, and it really makes sense, because when you talk about Cliff High's latest WebBots report that he puts out regarding some of the traffic and the things that he's seeing, now we have Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey come out and suggest that with the traffic and some of the political unrest and and again, they're controlling the information, obviously, of what people see, is suggesting that America could be on the brink of its own Arab Spring that's happening in regards to a political meltdown. And this is the war that we're facing right now, people. This is the war that's occurring in DC. So this is a very real war that's happening, and there are people that are infiltrating George Soros type events.
Yeah.
Read V's article. He does a good job mapping out the other factions that are involved. But there's a war going on right now in DC.
1000%, man. And the whole thing is who else was there? Who else happens to show up to this stupid "I am Muslim too" rally in New York? Who showed up over there? Linda Sarsour, the same Muslim Brotherhood connected terrorist fomenter who was in the feminist march in DC. Leftists and brain dead libtards, I implore you to gather yourselves together and rally to the side of radical jihadis. Gather to the side of Linda Sarsour. Pretend that Islamic terrorism doesn't exist. Pretend that, Islamophobia is not warranted. Pretend. And then, all of you can, hold hands, sing Kumbaya and Allah Allahu snack bar and migrate to California and secede from the Union. Please do that. Save us save us the trouble.
Exactly.
God, man, like I don't get what is up with the left, bro.
Well, I think in part that they didn't learn anything from the last election. It was really an opportune time, and we've discussed this before, where they really could have taken the Democratic Party, the old Democratic Party that wasn't so radicalized under Obama, but they didn't. They're doubling and tripling down, very similar to the MSM. And one of the reasons why I think this is ramping up and why we're going to see a lot more of these unrest, these things happening,
Yep.
is for the fact that you're starting to see even more now these pedophile rings being exposed. Bankster Slayer had a great article that she mapped out and talked about all these things occurring. I think it's now we're seeing them, whenever you have an animal caged up and they know that that something's going to happen, they're going to kick, they're going to scream, they're going to bite. And that's what we're seeing right now with these groups coming out. They're seeing these crackdowns occur. They're seeing these arrests being made. They're seeing the State Department being disassembled, getting rid of the deep state, getting rid of these secret groups that have for too long have involved the United States in all these illegal wars. And those times are coming up. And you see people like Lindsey Graham and John McCain getting involved now to say that we're going to do everything we can to oppose Trump. We're going to put in obstacles. It's just amazing time right now what's happening, V.
Dude, and at the same time, these Islamic lovers, as we're talking about this morning, freaking Sweden is burning. Okay? Sweden is collapsing. The Scandinavian countries facing existential crisis on an average 3 police officers handing in their resignations a day. 3 cops a day are walking off the job in Sweden because they're done. They're done. Why are they done? They're neutered. They've been ramshackled by libtards, liberal, loony, left-wing, politically correct BS rules on how to deal with these idiots. You're talking about these rape fugees. The alarming trend continues as police officers continue to resign. More than 1,000 officers will have quit by New Year's. Since the migrant crisis began last summer, Sweden has been hit by a series of brutal crimes and violent incidents. In 2015 alone, Sweden, a population of 9 million, received 160,000 asylum applications, and the country is expected to take as many as 190,000 refugees, or 2% of the population. Since the start of the Second World War, Sweden has prided itself on helping migrants who cross their borders. But police have now admitted that the force has reached a breaching point, as more than 50 areas, CJ, 50 areas in the country have now been placed on no-go zone lists.
Wow.
Okay, in February, bro, check this out. In February, a report from Sweden's National Criminal Investigation Service announced 52 areas where officers would not cope with the levels of crime being committed. Sex assaults, drug dealing, children carrying weapons were some of the incidences mentioned in the report. In September, Swedish officials were forced to add another 3 areas to the list, totaling 55. Now, the Police Association have said that they need at least 200 new officers to regain control in the southeastern part of the country. We are missing extremely many officers in the operational sector right now. We need 200 more officers to be added to the force. This is what their head police chief is saying. They are at a breaking point. And this is happening in France. And when you look at France, you see that Marine Le Pen is rising. She's rising because people are getting sick of being stabbed on the subways. They're getting sick of being groped. They're being sick of listening to that stupid call to prayer where Obama says, it's the most beautiful sound he's ever heard. F you. Syrian refugee teen hits out against Angela Merkel for welcoming too many refugees. I mean, this crap is going all over the place, bro.
Yeah, absolutely everywhere. And the thing that people have to understand is that these folks aren't here to assimilate. When you think about earlier in the earlier migrants and people come to the United States, it was to learn, to adapt, to assimilate to the culture of America. Right. These people aren't here to assimilate. They're here to change our culture, V.
That's exactly it. That's why you have these idiots out there, these libtards out there talking to these women wearing their little burqa, the little hijabs, right? And the question that's posed to them constantly, and you ask any one of these muzzies this, what do you think are there any similarities and differences between the United States Constitution and Sharia law? And they say, oh, Sharia law is just like the Constitution. It's the same thing. And the stupid idiot libtards believe it, and they buy into that line, CJ, hook and sinker. They buy into it totally and completely. This is the kind of stupidity we're facing. Look, let me tell you this. I'm pretty well traveled. I will tell you this. The nations in the world that have a Muslim population who shut the F up and mind their own business and put their kids through school and don't, and don't get off on this jihadi thing, is the nations where they know they would have their asses kicked if they were to start acting up. They would be killed. And because of that, they shut the F up and they go along with their life, CJ. I'm tired of this. I'm getting pissed off, man. They go along with their life. Over here, the nations where these people rise up, you give these people an inch, they will take 10,000 miles. Historically, I don't care about moderates. I don't care about jihad or extremists or secularists. You give these people an inch, they will take 10,000 miles.
Exactly. So, and when you think about that, what part of Sharia law do they want to adapt here? And is it stoning of women?
It's probably the genital mutilation because they fear the vagina.
Is it beating your wives, allowing you to beat your wives? And that if a wife says that her husband rapes her, it requires at least 25 men witnesses to prosecute. I mean, it's just completely absurd.
But it's incredibly stupid, bro. It's incredibly stupid. You know, and it's like, which part do you want us to simulate? How about you just mind your own damn business? How about you go about your life, raise your kids, but no, you come here, you're a fifth column, and somehow the political left has found you to be, because their whole thing, the bleeding heart libtards have to always look for their worldview, CJ, which is the oppressed and the oppressor. Somebody's being oppressed, so we must go and love them and show them human rights. Whose rights is being denied? Can a Muslim get a job in this country? Yes. If a Muslim plays by the rules and works his ass off, can he get a successful business? Yes. Can he get an education here? Yes. Can he do whatever the hell he wants to do here? Yes. Yes, 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 yes. How much more freedom do you want? Huh? How much more do you know? You don't want freedom. You want subversion. That's the difference. You don't want freedom. You want to subvert our way of life. Keep doing it, leftists. Keep doing it. Wrap yourselves with in the Islamic flag and wave your ISIS flags while they were shouting Allah Akbar in Times Square, bro. Like, what country am I living in, man?
I know.
Manhattan, I can't even recognize Manhattan anymore. It's freaking retarded, bro.
Yeah, and for those struggling to understand or believe in what we're sharing here, just do a quick Google search. Google search Sharia for America or Sharia in America. Google those terms, and you can see where there's been actual, in certain areas, where they are trying to infiltrate the courts to allow them to have some of these laws to come on the United States system. Well, you can't. You can't adapt Sharia to U.S. laws. They're incompatible.
1,000%, man. 1,000%. Courts, they want their own little Sharia law. They want their own Sharia patrol. Go on YouTube. If you don't believe me, type in Sharia and patrols and look at the Sharia patrols they're doing in London, where they're going up to girls and telling them, "Oh, your skirts are too short," and they're chasing people off properties and they're harassing the hell. That's how it starts. First is harassment. And then they take your head. Do not give these people an inch. I'm telling you, the most peaceful Muslim minorities in other nations of the world, especially in Southeast Asia, are the ones who shut the F up and mind their own business, because they know if they start with their little Sharia thing, they will have their asses kicked. You put those people with that type of a worry in their head, they'll be okay. They'll be productive citizens. They'll get along in life. They'll send their kids through school. Their kids will become doctors. They'll become successful. They'll become more westernized. You leave these MFers alone. You watch what they do. I've seen this shit happen too many times in too many countries, CJ. Sick of it, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean, look what happened in Africa. I think it was in Nigeria or something like that. The freaking Muzzies went crazy. They started slaughtering Christian churches they started killing Christians during church service, and the mainstream media here in the West blamed the Christians. It's got to stop, man.
Yeah, and there's other people that are being involved with it. You take a look again, at what Pope Francis has said here recently in terms of that one world religion, that that their belief in Allah is the same as ours in God, and that they're
My
compatible
ass.
religious and pushing these things together. So they're aligning all these people
Yeah,
to try to
my ass.
brainwash Americans into infiltrating their belief systems, and they're interpreting the Bible for themselves. And it's probably a whole other show. Probably need to get Eric back on from Tradcat Night and talk more about this. But it's everywhere, V, and we're being attacked on all fronts right now.
Absolutely, man, because they're losing, bro. So the frequency, the intensity of the attacks is higher than ever before. And the craziest thing is, you got to remember here, man. Okay, that you got to remember here. It's you know when we're thinking about this whole entire thing as an Arab Spring moment, we're out there talking about, oh, it's yeah, I am Muslim too. You're showing solidarity. You guys are all traitors. Get the hell out of this country. Leave. You hate America, leave. I mean, if the Muzzies, they hate the West so bad, what the hell are they doing here, CJ, right?
Absolutely. If you're not aligned, I was perfectly willing to. I was perfectly willing that in the event that Hillary Clinton was elected, to me, that was a signaling that it is now a post-America era. And I was perfectly willing to move out. I was perfectly willing to go, V.
Absolutely. Same here. Same here. I would have went to some place in the Southern Hemisphere. I would have been gone. Because at that point, America died. It's gone. But I'm staying because now we have a fighting freaking chance to make it better and to make it the best damn country and make America great again. That's what I'm here for. And I know that's what all the listeners are here for. That's what you're here for. See, that's what Rogue Money is here for, to make America great again, bro.
Yeah, and we're gonna do our part to continue, educating of what's happening. Keeping up with the current events. Here recently that there's been a lot of talk regarding is Pizzagate real? Is Pizzagate fake?
Right.
And it just so happened this ties in directly to the amount of arrests that are occurring, tied into them ramping up in DC their events to try to do obstacles to the administration, to blockade things. And it's an article that came out, V, just kind of discussing that, if you don't think that Pizzagate is real in terms of the political landscape and how deep this thing goes,
yeah,
a great article is up that maps out how basically that Sir Edwin Heath was a pedophile, and he was the former in Great Britain. He had led the prime minister between 1970 and 74. That in fact that he was a pedophile. In fact, they came out to say that more than 30 people have came forward with claims against him. Going back to the time that he was actually leading the UK, and that these things are real. These things aren't make-believe.
Yeah. No, it is real. If anybody doesn't believe in Pizzagate, anybody doesn't believe in globalist pedophile rings, your head is firmly shoved up your rear end. And the only thing you can see is probably your own orifice. That's the only vision you have, the only viewpoint, and that's how far your intelligence goes. But just Google Jerry Saville, who's on record, who's been caught being a pedophile, who's done nothing but to provide children to these incredibly deviant, disgusting elitists. Many of them connected to the royal family. Some of them are even royal family members. I mean, my God. Prince Andrew was caught on Pedo Island, Jeffrey Epstein's Pedo Island. Nobody bats an eye. Nobody thinks twice. Maybe this is real. The evidence is all over, man.
Absolutely. And then here recently, and people ask the question, well, why don't we hear about this? Why don't we see it? Well, you're starting to see a lot more of it. But a perfect example of why we don't see this in the MSM, or it doesn't get shared, is that they're in cahoots with the courts. Several of these courts and these prosecutors never bring forth the charges. Perfect example is what recently happened in Ohio. There was a prosecutor that changed, Michael O'Malley, and basically what he states is that in reviewing some of the office files, there was more than 1,900 cases that were marked inactive in a computer, and the majority of these cases were rape of children. and that they were kind of swept under the rug, and that the charges were never brought forth. So, charges have been filed about a dozen of the 70 cases that were sitting there because they didn't prosecute. They don't. That's what they do, because they look at the implication of who that's going to get exposed, who's involved with it, and they sweep these things under the rug. It never makes its way to the courts.
Yeah, absolutely correct, man. Absolutely correct. And why is this? Why is it out? And we're getting closer to Halloween, but you see a rise of kidnappings within the Virginia area of children. Why does that happen? Why it does, every year like clockwork, what, 5 to 7 million, how many children, like 5 million children a year go missing like clockwork every single freaking year?
Every year.
So, some of these kids are and law enforcement agencies like Interpol are finding American kids out in like freaking the middle of Thailand. They're finding them in Albania. They're finding them in different parts of Eastern Europe and in South Africa and the Middle East. How the hell is that happening? How does a kid who was kidnapped from Nebraska winds up in Saudi Arabia? How does a kid who goes missing in California winds up in Thailand? You know the amount of costs it takes to do that? The type of networking that's involved to get that type of movement? How does that happen?
It's very interesting. So in this, it just looks at 70 cases in Ohio where this is involved. And of the 70 cases, some of the victims were as young as 3 years old. Yeah. Three assistant county prosecutors have been forced to resign, and 4 others have been disciplined. O'Malley said he plans to refer prosecutors' names to the Ohio Supreme Court's Disciplinary Council. It is not clear why prosecutors failed to act on the cases or even enter them into the official's case management system. O'Malley says that he finds it hard to believe that his predecessor, Tim McNitty, would have allowed prosecutors to ignore these cases. And that's exactly what they did. O'Malley defeated McNitty in last year's Democratic primary and was elected by a wide margin in November. So again, this is just one example of a county in Ohio. How rampant is this across the United States that this happens, that this occurs?
Absolutely, 1,000%, man. And look, may I remind everybody, just last month, 1,500 arrests have taken place. 1,500 arrests all over the country with hundreds of children being rescued. They are all connected. Okay, they are all connected. Unreal, man. Unreal. Sick.
Yeah, unreal.
Turns out that go ahead, man.
No, you go for it. Go for it.
No, it also turns out that the libtards have a double standard, it seems like. So they get their panties in a bunch when Michael Flynn was talking to some Russian ambassadors on an unsecured line that he knew as an intelligence spy master. It's an unsecured line. He said nothing wrong. They have the transcripts, but these a-holes won't release the transcripts, even though the American public should demand that those transcripts be released. I for once, believe that Flynn did absolutely nothing wrong. And like what Trump said, he was doing his job, just calling these nations and letting them know, hey, you know what, we're coming into power. We're going to have to renegotiate on certain things, yada, 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 so on and so forth. And people don't realize that it was leaked that a top Chinese ambassador, CJ, seeked private meetings with Clinton aides, specifically John Podesta, the pedophile. John Podesta in January. In comparison to Flynn, bro. What's up with that, man?
Right. So here you see a complete, double standard. The deep state releases these conversations that were recorded that they captured Flynn, on these. And again, he's fired because of, lack of disclosure, right? That he didn't, tell Flynn entirely about these. But then you see the complete double standard. The Daily Caller is reporting, and they went back, and that's what they have to remember. Just going to fair warning to all these, fake news that are going to come out. We have all these emails back there at WikiLeaks, so they can easily go back and look for information. And that's exactly what they did. So they went back into the released emails from Podesta, the WikiLeaks. They actually found emails in there detailing out conversations of a Chinese diplomat requesting meetings with several of Hillary Clinton's campaign workers, including Podesta, requesting a meeting to have coffee to talk about what a Clinton election could look like and promising certain things. But do we hear any of this in the MSM? Do we see any of this? Absolutely not. Not a pin drop, V.
Nope. Exactly. What about the libtard flashback, man? Where back in 1984, the U.S. elections, none other than Tedward, the raging drunk Kennedy, the quote unquote lion of the Senate. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
The raging drunk, aka Johnny Walker, aka I love Jack Daniels. What would Jack Daniels do? Ted Kennedy asked Russia back in 84 to interfere, CJ. To interfere in U.S. elections to ensure that Ronald Reagan does not get elected again.
Right.
Does anybody say anything?
Absolutely not. No, he's regarding in history as one of the most active and most viable voices in D.C.
And that's it, exactly. Look, dude. Here's the news, you morons. So this is for the idiots who are like, hey, they're talking about fake news. According to Soviet documents unearthed in the early 90s, Kennedy literally asked the Soviets, avowed enemies of the United States, to intervene on behalf of the Democratic Party in 1984 election. See, back then in the 80s, the Democrats, the libtards in the 80s, and during the Cold, they were in love with the Soviet Union, bro.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, they're in love with the radical jihadis.
Right.
The radical Islamists. These guys were back then in love with the Soviet. In fact, when Mikhail Gorbachev would step off a plane, they'd fawn over him and they'd begin to pant themselves like dogs, and I don't even know, man. It's almost a sexual thing for these leftists, bro. I mean, if they could drop their pants and start masturbating in front of Mikhail Gorbachev, they would have done that. They would have done that.
They probably would have. Absolutely.
Yeah. On the tarmac, as Gorby was walking off the his Russian airplane, the libtards, they would have literally dropped their pants and started masturbating in front of him to show their solidarity and how much they loved him. But this is exactly what happened in the 84 elections. Kennedy's communist communique. That's what it was known as. It was so secret that it was not even discovered till 1991, 8 years after Kennedy had initiated his Soviet gambit. What the hell was the Soviet gambit, right? Picking his way through the Soviet archives that Boris Yeltsin had just thrown open in 1991, Tim Sebastian, a reporter for the London Times. Oh, wait a minute. Back when there was actual reporting, right, TJ?
Absolutely.
Came across an arresting memorandum composed in 1983 by Viktor Cherbakov, the top man of the KGB at the time. The memorandum was addressed to Yuri Andropov, man in the entire USSR. The subject was Senator Edward Kennedy. On 9/10, May of this year, the May 14th memorandum explained that Senator Kennedy's close friend and trusted confidant, John Tinney, was in Moscow. School roommate and a former Democratic Party senator from California charged Tinney to convey the following message through confidential contracts to the General Secretary, Communist Party of the Soviet Union. Okay, this is the stuff that was happening. And what were they discussing, man? What were they discussing? According to Soviet, okay, so what they were discussing is Kennedy's message was simple. He proposed protocol. Kennedy would lend Andropov a hand in dealing with President Reagan. In return, the Soviet leader would lend the Democratic Party a hand Reagan in the 1984 presidential election. The only real potential threat to Reagan are problems of war and peace and Soviet-American relations, the memorandum stated. These issues, according to the senator, will without a doubt become the most important of the election campaign. Kennedy made Andropov offers. First, he offered to visit Moscow. Oh, in other words, this was the John McCain in the 80s, bro.
Right.
The main purpose of the meeting, according to the senator, would be to arm Soviet officials regarding problems of nuclear disarmament so they may be better prepared during appearances in the USA. Possible for Andropov to sit down for a few interviews on American television. I mean, look at the subversion at work. A direct appeal to the American people attracted a great deal of attention and interest in the country. If the proposal is recognized as worthy, then Kennedy and his friends will bring about suitable steps to have representatives of the largest television companies in the USA contact Andropov to Moscow for the interviews. The senator underlined the importance that this initiative would be seen as coming from the American side. Kennedy would make certain the networks gave Andropov airtime and that they rigged the arrangement to look like an honest journalism.
Wow.
If that is not meddling in the elections, I don't know what is, bro.
No, exactly.
I don't know what is.
Exactly, but stuff like that doesn't get reported. You know, another direct tie was, you know, under Obama when Obama gave a political group under the U.S. State Department gave a political group in Israel close to $350,000 to try to influence votes against Benjamin Netanyahu. Do these things get covered? No, and this is fact.
No. But Trump, the Russians. What do you say? I mean, every other question this guy has to deal with is, what do you think about Russia? What do you think about Russia? Did Russia? How's Russia? Would you Russia? How is Russia? Did you do that, Russia? Russia. The answer is no. There's nothing there. How about we turn the tables on you guys? But no,
Yeah.
see, now it's all about the new protected class. See, you gays are going to be in for it. See, before the homosexual community was like the protected class, but you know, for the libtards. Now it's the muzzies. Now it's the muzzies. You gays are going to get left out. Not only are you going to get left out, they're getting in bed with the very people that will throw you off a building.
Absolutely.
Good luck with that, guys. Good luck with that.
Absolutely.
Oh man, what else is on the radar, CJ?
Well, and again, what, you know, tying this all back together, and we take a look of what's happening, you know, globally in terms of the amount of debt that's out there. You know, you look at the EU, you look at, you know, the actual economies, and you look at the U.S. dollar, and the fact that right now there's a shortage happening where there's not enough U.S. dollars being purchased, and it's kind of outlining you know, why, because the dollar shortage is triggered right back to the fact that, you know, either people don't want them anymore to do trade with their economies, or they don't have any of their own currency to be purchasing these dollars. So it's very interesting to see what is happening globally, you know, in regards to the dollar shortages and how indebted the economies of the world are right now.
Absolutely. And that's the whole thing, man. You know, it's really disgusting. And look at the dollar shortages, CJ. Like, what are they saying about dollar shortages? That seems to be like a thing that's starting to trend now.
Yeah. So the forex basis, you know, what it looks at in terms of the dollar shortages is the supply and the demand of the dollar versus, you know, foreign currency funds, and the negative basis, you know, currently the points of the relatively of the shortages happening with U.S. dollars funding. And they look at that as a relative to abundance of funding in other currencies. So right now you're seeing a huge imbalance between, you know, U.S. dollars, you know, the global, you know, exchange and what they're used for buying goods, you know, trade, basically, that's happening right now. And this is signifying back to 2008, 2009 timeline of when there was another global dollar shortage that was occurring. And so now we're starting to see that come right back into play. So this article is coming out to us from Sputnik International regarding this, and also Zero Hedge, you know, mapped it out as well. That would a gradual U.S. dollar shortage see the currency squeezed higher as it becomes increasingly rare, like gold analyst of the Netherlands-based Rabobank wrote, or might the U.S. aim for a currency wars approach of pushing the value of the dollar down in order to rebalance its trade?
Yeah, here's the deal, man. Why is there a dollar shortage when there's an abundance of QE? Well, the dollar shortage is there's no money velocity. Okay, this is what people don't understand. When you have QE, you're like, well, there's so much QE, and there's so much money. No, the money is actually being held by by the up channels, which would be like you Wall Street firms and this, that, and the other, and they will hold it. And a lot of the financial institutions in the Western world, they're holding dollars. That's where all this QE dollars going. That's where all the dump dollars are going. Everybody's in a holding pattern. So people are wondering, where's the dollars? How come there's no dollars? We're seeing a decline in global dollar trade. Money velocity is tepid. It's flatlined. It's bottomed out. I've said this 2 years ago. We're facing a liquidity crisis and a solvency crisis. Well, how does that happen when you have QE? Well, it's simple. QE creates capital destruction and malinvestment. That's how it happens. And capital malformation. QE also affects the various negative feedback loops within the economic cycle and has a huge impact on money velocity, which eventually leads to a solvency crisis, which we're in the middle of.
Boom.
Exactly. And these guys need charts and graphs and all that stuff to do it, CJ, and I can sum it up in 30 seconds, bro.
Go for it, man.
No, I already did. So here's this. Look at the alpha wave here, and when you look at the alpha wave here, and you look at the different types of quotients here, the candlestick going in a negative inverse, we're clearly seeing a Six Sigma event. No, it's you have the money's being held, it's being bolt hold in places like like Euroclear in Belgium, and Clearstream in England. Various other places which are basically bolt holes where a lot of this offloaded, dumped U.S. Treasuries are going, and then with all the QE, you're creating capital malformation, capital destruction, which creates a problem with money velocity, which eventually leads to what we have today, which is really a solvency crisis that nobody's really freaking talking about, CJ.
Yeah, they're not. No, you're not seeing this in the news right now in regards to what's happening. So, all these other events are creating distractions of what we're seeing with the, everyone, cashing in on their treasuries, that no one is wanting U.S. debt anymore. They're not buying it.
No, why would you? It's the most dangerous thing in the world. Why would you? It's the reason why Venezuela is so stupid. It's the reason why they're so stupid, because they want to hold on to debt. They want to hold on to U.S. dollars and somehow keep their stupid bolivars, which are worthless pieces of crap, pegged to the dollar, which kills them even more because it's absolutely eviscerating their forex reserves as the dollar gets higher and higher and higher. They just can't afford to buy freaking dollars. And they're too stupid to diversify out of the U.S. held holdings and go into something that's offered by China or the Russians, bro.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's why we're seeing the Russia and China start to accumulate more and more gold.
Hey, what's that about, man? I heard a murmur out there. Why don't you describe that for the audience, bro?
Yeah, so this comes to us from Russia Insider in regards to the sanctions and the gold ruble, Russia's gambit for full financial sovereignty. So again, the West and our implications of having these sanctions work, and yes, it did. In terms of the trade, it did impact the Russian ruble. So they saw some, currency devaluations. But what people do not understand, what America fails to understand, is that Russia does not necessarily hold a lot of other currencies in terms of how they back it. So yeah, they have X amount of dollars that they trade. For example, the ruble fell about 30% in terms of when those sanctions started to hit. But they have a huge setting infrastructure that started to come up. The agriculture, the manufacturing sectors of Russia started to take off. And then they also were sharing the fact that hey, you know what, we're buying gold. And then when you look at it in terms of reserves that Russia has right now, the ruble is the most gold-backed currency in the world right now. And their currency reserves are excess. In fact, twice as much as our monetary base, twice as much as their monetary base. So again, that it's just a metaphor saying that the gold-backed ruble, but when you look at what their holdings are, their reserves are of it, they're already there.
Absolutely, man. They had the best performing stock market of 2015 and 2016. It was the Moscow Stock Exchange. And also the ruble, apart from Bitcoin, was a currency that did extremely well. How do you do that? Well, you peg it to something of tangible value, which is gold. And wait until China rolls out their gold-backed yuan, and then it's going to be game over. And then again, the U.S. will be like, well, we have deep storage gold, and they're going to be like, okay, fine. Well, there's going to have to be an independent audit, like what London Paul says. There's going to have to
Right.
be an audit.
Yep.
The game is shifting, man. The game is shifting.
Yeah, just connect the dots. Connect the dots of everything that we're seeing be in terms of, the turmoil here in the U.S. The debt that's accumulating, everything that's occurring around the globe with the crisis, the EU, the changes that are occurring. I think we're in for a pivotal shift that's about ready to happen. It already has, and I think it's just a matter of time before they pull the plug on the dollar as far as the world reserve currency.
Yep, absolutely, absolutely. Which brings us to the end of the broadcast, my friend. I think we've covered it all. If there's anything you want to say, give out your plugs, your closing comments.
Yeah, again, we'll have to get London Paul rescheduled. We'll work very diligently to get that accomplished. Appreciate subscribing. Make sure to share us. More importantly, that's how we're going to grow, is share our videos. Ask friends, family to subscribe, and appreciate everyone being with us today.
Absolutely. And guys, again, check out the stuff on roguemoney.net. I mean, we covered a lot of litany of articles. Again, the most important game that's being played right now, it's one that's being played on a global scale. Okay, yeah, there's a lot of crap going on domestically, but look towards a global initiative, because that's where the opportunities are found and created and leveraged to over here in the domestic as well. So roguemoney.net, that's the place to be. The latest articles are up by Ken, Bankster, Wolf, and as well as James. And just a few minutes ago, before this broadcast even started, my newest article is out there, American Maidan 2, American Maidan Part 2, Georgi and Gordita. Check it out. Wonderful article listing to you where Soros is getting his help from. I don't want to spoil it. You're just going to have to go read it. With that being said, guys, follow us on Twitter at The Rogue Money. Check out the Rogue Money Facebook page, as well as the Rogue Money website. And also check out our sponsors. If you're suffering from debt, or you just need a credit tune-up, you just need a better credit score, you got debt collectors threatening to kidnap your children and hold them for ransom if you don't pay your bill, or if you got judgments, liens, you need help with your student loans, you got all these burdens and whatnot with debt, call the guys over at myfreedomnow.us, myfreedomnow.us, and you guys could actually book a call, and I might even call you. You might have the Senor Silverback even reach out and give you a holler. With that being said, again, like what CJ said, we'll try to get London Paul back on this week. And until that, we'll see you guys tomorrow morning on regularly scheduled mornings with V and CJ. We are over and out. Take it away, CJ.